Hey guys, today I'm going to do a follow-up video to my earlier video series on the Bose amp repair. What I'm going to talk about today are some things that I noticed, some things that we didn't talk about, and most specifically I'm going to talk about post-repair, the sound that I had, and comparing them very specifically to the amps that I bought earlier this year for my coupe. I'm gonna compare buying new replacement amps to rebuilding them like I did, and also talk about Dr. Don, who is famous for repairing the Bose amps, specifically for the Corvettes. So let's get started. And I want to apologize for being unable, and I hope everybody understands, I'm really unable to provide a test, an audio performance test. You know, I'm new to YouTube. I don't quite understand all the rules. I know there's copyright rules, so and there's no way I'm gonna reproduce audio through a microphone. So with that out of the way, let's talk the amps. If you noticed, I even bought all the tools to do that job. You know, I have used a soldering iron before, but very little. Honestly, I've just soldered wires together. I've never worked on a circuit board, or I don't even know what a capacitor is. I just bought them. So when I was done repairing the amps, you know, they worked, and I kind of chuckle. One of my in my third video, right in the intro, is when I had mentioned that I just finished doing my first amp and it worked, and I did not seem very enthused. And I'll be honest, it took me about 4 hours to do that first amp. I've never done it before, so I didn't really know what I was doing. I was learning as I was going. I was doing one capacitor at a time, meaning pulling, sucking the solder, and replacing. In the third video, I did an entire board, and that's when I realized I'm going to remove all capacitors, clean the board, and then redo the board. So that's what I did. And it worked, and I was very happy, and I got the second board done, and I had a problem. So the whole project was doing amps for my convertible. One of the amps was damaged. The power supplies in the amps were cracked. The board was burnt. It was damaged beyond repair, or at least my capability. So luckily I had my leftover amps out of my 95 coupe. What I did there was I just bought, earlier in the spring, I just bought brand new amps. I bought all brand new amps. All 4 brand new amps and brand new drivers, and just rebuilt the Bose system with new components. And there's some things I didn't know about that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So what I ended up having to do was rebuild one convertible amp and rebuild one coupe amp. Both of them were specific to the rear. The amps, by the way, are all very specific. Fronts are different than rears. Coupes are different than convertibles. So I ended up putting a coupe and a convertible amp in this convertible, and it worked. The bass was there, everything was there. It was loud. It did not sound the same as my coupe, which has brand new amps. So I did a test, and this is all after the fact. I did a test where I took my repaired amps for this car and I put them in the coupe, and they sounded good. Inside an enclosed cabin, I had bass, I had a nice balanced sound. So here's what I realized and what I learned. I read about it, but I haven't read any concrete evidence. So here's my input. The amps, if I understand it correctly, the amps that you buy online through the internet, Corvette part suppliers, and there's quite a few of them, and they're very popular and very reputable. Those amps, even though they are marketed specifically for your car, or in my case, the 1990 through 96, the amps are generic. In that same era, late 90s, to the best of my knowledge, Nissan and Cadillac also had the identical amplifiers. Now, they were equalized different for that particular car, but they were the same housing, the same 6-pin connector. You could swap amps back and forth between all these vehicles. So what I am to understand is the new amps, even though you're buying it for a 1990 to 96 Corvette, I believe they're generic and they are equalized completely different. I can tell you, and I'll show you a picture, they're equalized completely different than my stock 95. Now, they had identical circuit boards, but what I noticed, I counted seven different capacitor changes between the two. Now, let's talk about repairing, purchasing, and the options that you have. There's basically 4 options. One is you completely replace the entire stereo, and a lot of people do that. And with Bose, there's a lot going on there. It's all the wiring, although I believe now they have bypass harnesses. I'm not really sure. But a lot of people will rip out the Bose and they'll put it in aftermarket. I will not. Or you spend $140 online and you buy a poorly equalized amplifier that will give you sound, and a lot of it, and depending on what you listen to, you might not have an issue with the bass. Or if you look online, there's a website called drdon.com, or if you search for Dr. Dom Corvette Bose stereo, you'll get this guy. And he's very, very famous, very popular in the forums. And what he does is he rebuilds your original board. And what that will do is guarantee you to have a perfectly equalized amp. as it came with the car back in the day. And I had a couple Corvettes back in the day, and I recall the Bose system sounding very nice for its time, which is why I was very disappointed with my 95 when I bought new amps. It just didn't seem right to me. So the options, again, either replace completely with aftermarket everything, buy online from a Corvette parts supplier, rebuild them yourself, or have Dr. Don rebuild it. And what Dr. Don does is he provides a lifetime warranty. He also charges $100 an amp, so it is $40 cheaper. What he does is utilizes the original board, he cleans it, he removes all the capacitors, he cleans it, he puts all new capacitors in it. And the newer capacitors are just better than the old ones, which is what failed in the amps, and that's why there's a variety of symptoms. If you're willing to spend the money, Dr. Don is probably the best choice, because if you buy a modern replacement amp, it's not going to be equalized properly, and more than likely you're just not going to be happy with the sound like I was.